I'm Annette, and this is Ensō Tell Me More. And today I'm inviting you into a story and to meet Stephanie. We have a past from the West Vancouver Otters swim team back so many years ago, and I am so delighted to be able to be back here and be able to have this conversation with you. And your story speaks a lot of courage and clarity and that quiet power of knowing when you know what you have to do and you have the courage to do it. And so I really want to talk about your story, but let's first get an opportunity. Why don't you introduce yourself here, Stephanie?
Sure. Hello, I'm Stephanie. I live in Vancouver, BC, and I run a small business called Alaire Advising, where I guide students to plan their post-secondary path out of grade 12. I also work with 20-something-year-olds who haven't decided yet what they'd like to do or need to pivot into a new direction, having tried a first launch and it didn't quite work out. So those are my two main target groups.
Mm-hmm. And you're an educator, you're a career advisor, and as a founder. What we love to be able to do is hear your story and your reflections and the kind of growth that we don't always talk about, but that growth comes from the courage and sometimes in those moments where you had to sit still to really hear yourself and know what your heart was speaking to. And oftentimes those hard choices that come through, the hard choices, I really talk about the weather that you endure. So Stephanie, thank you for joining me for this conversation. And we're going to go through the metaphor of a tree. And that's what And So a Tree Still Grows is. And let's start even with the seed, right? And everything starts with a seed. And if you were to think of your moment and that seed that was planted and the first root that had to break out of it of curiosity and what was that and what kind of comes up for you?
Okay, sure. So I think my seed was planted in public education for a very long time. And the soil changed, if we're using metaphors. And the soil for me was probably COVID. COVID had us at home working with students online for a couple months. And I was really drawn to their stories and how they were coping with COVID, how they were coping with online learning, and what kinds of activities that they were doing when they weren't trying to finish their online courses. And that soil really resonated with me because I found that I had more time to listen, and that environment was interesting. I knew that online wasn't great for students. Most of them didn't enjoy it. They felt quite isolated. But what if I could create that environment in person and still have these conversations with students where we had time to really listen? And so from that, I really thought, perhaps there's another way to best guide students. That's how I felt I served them best. And maybe a public setting wasn't quite right. It's a very busy environment. There's a lot of students on my roster, and there isn't time to invite parents into these conversations, and they also want to be a supportive part of the journey.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and I mean, we think of diversity and even in spaces of neurodivergency of we all learn differently and how we absorb, and having those around us that can deeply understand and have that space to be heard, right? And seen is so important in that teenager years. So, and what ages do you typically do?
Well, in the practice that I'm running now, it's best if students can start around the grade 10 level. However, students start at grade 11, grade 12, and also post graduating from high school. I also have very meaningful conversations with the 20-somethings who need some guidance.
And I think we all need some guidance here and there too. I still need
Yes,
guidance.
I personally wish I had one of me when I was in high school.
Right?
It would have helped a lot, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. And so your route of curiosity to go from the public sector into where you are now, well, let's explore that. Like, what was the curiosity and what did that grow into?
I loved what I did. I loved the team of people I worked with at school, but what was missing for me was the environment, an environment in which students felt that they could have meaningful conversations and have time to explore all their possibilities. Also an environment where parents could be invited initially as well to support their student and know best how to support their student through this process. The kind of the queries that I had going into this was that things were very comfortable in public ed setting in terms of a secure job, long-term pension, benefits, all the joys that come with that. And so I needed to know that financially this was a viable option. So I did seek the advice of a financial planner through the bank, and they said yes. So that was great. I also wanted to see if the service was valued as much as I believed it was. And so how was I going to let people know that I existed and wanted to get going in this business? So that's a story to share as well.
Mm-hmm.
And also you got to have a lot of confidence. You got to have a lot of faith in yourself that you can give this a go and that this is right. I think technically what was very helpful for me was writing a business plan. I had come with content, but I didn't have any business skills. And someone said, write a business plan. It will map out everything for you and provide clarity. I didn't know what that was, so I had to download one from Google and fill it in. And, very, very helpful. What are your mission? What are your values? Who are your audiences? Where are your funds going to come from? Lots of really great, thoughtful questions to kind of map out the direction in which I wanted this business to grow.
Mm-hmm. So I kind of see like you had this calling, you kind of knew what in where the roots, and I've used in the metaphor of like the pot being something that we were in that we knew we had to break out of, right? And so I hear you had the courage to break open the pot, right? And be like, do you want, I need to be planted outside in a more natural setting where I can really let my roots stretch out. And which then is like becomes very vulnerable, right? Like Japanese have this term that's called nemawashi, and its term actually means of washing the roots. And you wash the roots of anything that's entangled that may support or not support into growing it into a new environment. And so the help and support of what I hear, a financial advisor and finding a business plan, and those metaphorical senses I use as those are like the gardeners and those who help you replant into another area. We don't do this ourselves, right? Yeah.
No.
And that, yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I think, people always say, well, how do I get going? And it's quite fun that I call it the Tupperware party. A friend of mine asked me what I was doing lately. And so I sort of let her know. And she said, I'm going to have a Tupperware party at my house. And so she invited her friends and their students. And they were a group of grade 12s that kind of had gone through high school together, and their parents were friends as a result of that. And so there was a group of maybe 20 people, and it was a Friday evening, and we sat around at her dining room table, and I brought my laptop and I gave a general post-secondary planning presentation on my laptop with the crowd around the dining room table. And from that, I got 8 students right out of the gates from that who wanted further guidance on a one-to-one basis. And it's grown from there. The other fun thing that happened was someone asked the question on a Facebook group, the moms of the North Shore, does anyone know an educational planner for graduating students? And I guess a client that had been one of mine had suggested and put my name on there. another great way of recommendation that has blossomed here in my own community.
Oh, that's so amazing. And that's really where it begins of like, we don't do this alone. Nobody does it alone, right?
Mm.
It's built so solidly in community and networking. And I mean, because I explore everything through the metaphor of a tree, that trees too communicate and share resources and share those things. And so I always love is like every tree needs its forest, right? And finding those connections and networks of where they have. So let's even explore the roots. Like roots are where our values are, the tap roots, right? And those values, they're formed in the dark, but they're so essential to be strong. We have to make sure that those tap roots are rooted nice and strong, because when the storms come, when the heavy weather comes, and those heavy weather being any scenarios that happen, they hold us, right? And can you share what shaped your roots and what experience or moments made you feel most grounded in your purpose?
I think believing again in myself that this was a valuable service that I can offer for students, and it's something that I love to do. And I think that's a big part. It's more that I love to do this, and I want to serve the community. That the community really values the service. That to me was a big aha. That this was a grounding for and the foundation for Alaire Advising. The other roots are, again, creating an environment. And I do this work out of my home in a very peaceful, calm, the lighting's right. I offer, to make it as comfortable and relaxing as I can, because students tend to arrive with a lot of anxiety. They feel this anxiety to need to know what they want to do when they leave grade 12, and they have no idea. So that is a fairly anxiety causing situation for them. So I try to just bring that down and make it just like, welcome to my home. Let's have a conversation. Let's talk about your possibilities.
Oh, all the little saplings, right? Send all the little saplings to be ready to be planted with you. That sounds so. I want to come. Can I come? And I mean, I'm still trying to figure things out. I think about to my 17 and 20-year-old self, and yeah, like leaving the nest and starting to explore what you can do. Like, that's a scary time.
Yeah, for sure. And I think too, just kind of helping the parents understand a lot about the process and getting, the more information that we really have and understand on this process, I think the more informed we can be. And I think it's a lot more nerve settling to have the information. But more specifically, for a student to understand what is important to them and what are they good at? Those are two really reflective questions that come out of our initial consultation after we create what I call their storyline. And I'm not sure, Annette, would you be interested to sort of know that process?
Yeah, I absolutely. Yeah, why don't you share that?
Yeah, so I meet students and parents for the very first time, and they come to my home, and I need to find out more about the student before I can offer some good guidance. So I create their storyline, and I craft it on this piece of cardstock, and it kind of looks like this when you're done. It's just a series of themes, a series of stories. It's kind of color-coded to indicate the different times of their life and the different themes. But what we're really trying to look for in their storyline is, what are the skills that you already have? And that's a real confidence builder for the student. It's like, oh yeah, I've learned that. Oh yeah, I know that. And what have been some common interests throughout your life? Who have been important mentors in your life that have helped grow, who you are today? And then we see a lot of patterns when you visually have their storyline. You can kind of see, oh, some repeated skills, some repeated interests. I also too want to know what challenges you've met in your life. And this is before they even formally start school. We start as far back as they can remember. The parents are here. They help the student remember when they were really little, how they spent their free time. And so it's a really great exercise. And I'm not sure, like the students are really wondering, well, what use is this? But after they finish, after we spend a good hour on this, they can see how it's important, how it is really important in what their possibilities are, what they're good at, and what is important to them, what they value.
Mhm. Oh, that's amazing. I mean, I think I can do this now and it'd still be important to me for me to go through
Right.
this practice now. And I mean, it's such an influential time of their life. And I think anybody can still recall that 13 to 20-year-old in that phase, and it still impacts us now. Even for myself, I think back to my teenage year self and the people who influenced me, and the sports and the academics that influenced me the most are still true to me now. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
this is an incredible time and space that you do that help these students at this space, to help them grow their roots.
Yeah, it is. It is a really great practice that I believe I've created. And again, I see these students come in unsure of who this woman is and how she's going to help me, and leave with thanks, leave with gratitude, leave with some direction, and want to move forward by returning and diving deeper into programs of interest, or further guidance in other areas as well. Resumes, for example. I think students all need a resume before they graduate. Just a simple skill to have, credential to have. Yeah. So I do.
It
I
makes
love
me
what I do.
Yeah, it makes me think. Even I recently read Tasha Urich's Shatterproof, and she talks about the 3 to thrive, and the 3 to thrive of confidence, choice, and connection. And it sounds like you stabilize those two of confidence and choice,
Mhm.
by doing that board, so that they know what they feel confidence in the skills that they have, and that they have choice to how they move forward.
They do. They have so many possibilities, and also a very good reminder is that when you graduate in BC out of grade 12, you're about 17 years old, and your brain is still rapidly developing. And with the information you have at this time, this is your first launch. It won't be your only launch. Right? We all know we have, and I look at the parents and I say, ask your parents, how many launches have they had in their life? And they're shaking their head going, yeah, right? So whatever decision you make and you try that pathway, if it's the right pathway for you, then you keep following it. If it isn't, then we're going to pivot and go down another pathway. Does it mean that you failed? Absolutely not. So much about career development is you need to explore an
Mhm.
area of interest before you can really decide if you want to pursue it further or not. So
Mhm.
there's no failing, right? It's just a matter
Mhm.
of launching into something, give it a go, and see the direction that it might take you next.
Yeah. Something that I've explored and brought into, and I see it repeating even in what you're saying, is the Japanese old traditional concept of shu, ha, and ri. And the shu, ha, and ri, I've built into an infinity growth model. And that is that life is cyclic in nature, and we'll go through these cycles over and over again, just like the seasons. And the shu is seeking your masters, so coaches and mentors like yourself that we can learn from. And my favorite phase is the re phase, which is, or sorry, the ha phase, shu ha re, the ha phase. And the ha phase, when we consider humility, of how we can experiment in our life, and the ha 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 ha, until we find our
Mm-hmm.
aha moments,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it sounds like you help these students find those aha moments so that they can then transcend and bring into practice and really grow their nice strong trunk of a tree.
Sure. And another way to look at it as well is, helping students find what their mission is.
Mm.
We're here to serve ourselves, and we're also here to serve others, as opposed to, I want to be a dentist, I want to enter the faculty of science. Like, those are concrete subjects that don't really explain how best we may serve ourselves and others. So those are really need to understand those concepts first, again, before we can leap into defining programs of interest. So
Yeah.
those are some other activities that help do that, are understanding the problems that students are interested to solve. And, the problem that I'm interested to solve is to help students decide where they want to first launch after grade 12. But that's not everybody's interest. And so,
Yeah.
finding out what your interest is to serve yourself and others is a very helpful part of the guidance I do.
Mm-hmm. Amazing. And if you're to think of like the weather as the challenges that occur, right? And we can never really predict. I mean, we can try to at the most in best case, but there's always scenarios that uproot us sometimes. And so what are some of those that you see that you help these students through?
Well, I work with students on the autism spectrum, and they have a very different style of learning and being guided by me. However, I want to show them that what their quote superpowers are, and in the way their brain works, um, and so that is very helpful in helping them decide how to further their post-secondary education.
Mm-hmm.
So I appreciate the fact that we're now being more transparent about neurodiversity. That is very helpful for me and in my work, for the students and understanding themselves and how they work best. And then further down the road, their employers and how a work environment is important for their productivity and efficiency.
Mm-hmm. I mean, we're just reaching in that space right now where it's becoming more aware in the neurodivergent space. And I actually just recently read a book called Divergent Minds by Janira Nierenberg, and it shifted my perspective
Mm,
that there's many women now who are getting late diagnosis of ADHD and women in their 40s and so on. And so it's quite interesting there. Really great work that you're doing here as well, and so powerful to be able to bring empowerment to students early on in their life.
I think too, I really want to understand students' challenges that they've had and encountered throughout their life and chart them on their storyline, because so much learning can come from some of those hardships. Probably one of the more recent examples I had was a student was a downhill ski racer, and that was her passion. She was good at it, and then she broke her ACL and needed extensive surgery and couldn't ski race for a very long time after. What kept her going physically? What kept her going mentally? What did she learn from this experience? And it was quite interesting for her to put that in a positive slant. This was the situation, but instead of dwelling on it, she got very interested in her own care, her own mental well-being care, and how do I keep that healthy when I feel so low that I can't do any ski racing. And as a matter of fact, I can't do anything right now. Also, how am I going to rehabilitate and get back on the slopes? And so she really took a serious interest and understood and learned a lot about how to keep her mental well-being healthy. She also learned from the surgeon. She was quite interested in her own surgery and really took an interest in what they did as a career, and also her physiotherapist. So learning about her caregivers and their careers. So did her own career exploration really well while being down and out. So fantastic way, to kind of continue her career development, even though she was being challenged and not being able to ski race anymore.
Well, it's such a profound moment too. And I mean, you probably see this time and time again of like our own experiences shape then where our passion and our mission and what we feel our purpose is. Like that's a great story. Like, do you see many of your students go down that path based on their experience in that time frame?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Yes, students are willing to share quite a lot, and some of their stories are sad. They really are. And again, I thank them very much for trusting me and their willingness to share. What what have they learned from that experience is the really the takeaway from it, because those are tools that they will use in their life if situations like that were to reoccur, or similar situations were to pop up. It's like, okay, I've been through this before. These are the strategies I have to cope with it and to move on with it. And so very valuable learning experiences can come from some unfortunate challenges.
Yeah. Well, I mean, yeah, like I mean, trees and branches, they fall and they lose the limb. And I mean,
Yeah.
the greatest example is a tree never says like, I'm losing leaves, this can't be. No, it releases, it lets go, it learns, it goes back into a cycle. And there's so much that we can learn that weather returns and we lose limbs and trees, like in a tree sense, right? And that shift. And when we have those happen, it does happen heartache and decisions and breaking points, right? Um, and we all have those. And how do we turn those into lessons? So how do you help those students through those moments?
Most of them have already had these challenges occur prior to meeting me. They're not presently going through them. If I feel that there are what I call hurdles, roadblocks that are preventing me from understanding the student and preventing them, excuse me, from, I guess, being being true and being able to move forward, then I always suggest we bring on another team member
Mm-hmm.
in the student's career development, and then I will recommend some social emotional counseling for them. And I
Mm-hmm.
don't practice that, but I do have some very close colleagues who will help. So we bring on an additional team member if that's required.
Oh, that's excellent. Yeah. And
Sometimes, yeah, they will need to be cleared before they can really move on with their career
yeah,
development. Yeah,
yeah, for sure. Yeah. And I'm
I
really
think.
struck with like even you, how you leaned into your own discomfort in a space and
Mhm,
curiosity and allowed your own branches to grow and dug deeper into your impact that you did. And when I talk about that perspective, like when our roots are nice and strong, we can carry more on our branches, right? And our branches become stronger. And I really liked the story of how you launched your business and reached out to your own mentorship and mapped out your own stories with different ways. It's quite beautiful. So how do you see your impact today, and how are your branches really reaching out to the world?
yeah, so I have a good solid network of people now. I started what I called a coffee networking group of 6 women. We were all formerly in public education or public practice and wanted to dial that into our own sole proprietorship. So I gathered 6 women together. We met once a month and we really supported each other through various aspects. For example, one coffee meeting we talked about business insurance, what it looks like, why we need it, something we never had to deal with before in our other jobs. So we had usually a theme for our meeting that somehow helped us understand building a business and supporting each other on moving forward with that. I always try to practice what I preach. So I'm always asking students to network with people and look for those metaphors. So early on, when I was deciding to create this business, I was searching on LinkedIn and found a woman who I believed was doing very well and did something similar to what I was doing. And that's Janet McDonald. She is based in Halifax, and she helps students win scholarships. And she's very good at what she does. And I didn't know her, but I reached out and I said, will you offer me 30 minutes of your time? And she replied straight away, and we set up a Zoom meeting, and I asked her all about her work and how she got going. And she was a great inspiration on getting myself going with a lot of good tips. More generally, I've joined the Women Entrepreneurship BC. They've been a fantastic resource for women starting small businesses. They have a lot of webinars. I had another mentorship call from someone to help me with some fine tuning of the business side again, because that was the new part for me. I feel very well supported as well by my community, who keeps on booking appointments, and I keep meeting these students with grand possibilities, and just really families, really lovely families who are working to support their students. I did get very busy, more busy than I wish to be. So I've approached a former colleague from a school I worked at and asked her if she was interested to get on board. And so she's slowly coming on board, which is great because she's still working almost full time.
Oh, that's amazing. And what a powerful, like the force that we create around us in the community to help support each other, and that is so important in networking. And yeah, it's so powerful. Mentorship, even all those that support us. Well, you really reminded me really on that growth's not linear, and that cyclic in nature, and it always goes back. And seasonal, and sometimes the most powerful transformations happen after the storm and after scenarios, and they're hard to get through. And so really to wrap up in one last question, like if you could plant one seed of hope in the heart of someone standing at the edge of their own change, what would it be?
The world needs you. Let's explore your possibilities.
Oh, that's so good. Yeah, do you want to say that one more time?
The world needs you. Let's explore your possibilities.
Amazing. Well, Stephanie, thank you, truly. And I was excited to be able to tell your story, and the encouragement to keep growing outward. And may those listening to have that quiet encouragement to root deeper and to reach a little bit wider, and remember that a tree still grows.
Thank you so much, Annette. It was really a pleasure connecting with you again.
You too.